Sometimes it's hard to know what exactly you're looking for in a villain until you see it unfold on screen. As someone who's not big into superheroes, it takes a lot to pull me in, but Amazon Prime's The Boys is tailor-made to win over skeptics with its original action sequences, tongue-in-cheek dialogue, and well-written characters. However, there's undeniably one character who stands out from the pack, who you almost wait to arrive back on screen, who you can't look away from. It would be so easy for an evil character like this to feel one note, to play him like just another bad guy acting out of self-interest rather than principle. But Antony Starr manages to make his antagonist not just menacing or megalomaniacal, but sensitive, insecure, funny, narcissistic, and childish, which makes him, despite everything he's done, likable. You don't want him to win, but you enjoy watching him so much that you're not ready for him to lose. At just 20 years old, the Kiwi actor started his career by playing David in Xena Warrior Princess. He was then mostly known for his leading roles in Banshee and Outrageous Fortune. So when the opportunity to audition for The Boys came along, Starr was instinctively disinterested, as he was busy with other projects, so he reluctantly filmed a quick audition tape just to get the producers off his back. Little did he know that this nonchalant approach was exactly what they were looking for. And it was now, at the age of 44, that he would take on a role that would propel him into stardom and take the internet by storm, as his dynamic facial expressions are a match made in heaven with modern meme culture. But what is it about this performance that makes it not just engaging and enjoyable, but feel instantly iconic? Let's take a deeper look at how Antony Starr perfected Homelander in The Boys. We'll start with the physicality of the character. Despite behaving like a villain, Homelander views himself as the real hero. He's the most powerful being this planet has ever seen, and it shows in how Starr carries himself. He regularly adopts the Superman power pose with his hands on his hips, and he's generally dismissive of the people he's talking to by turning his back to them and looking out the window. This body language signals that the character believes everyone else is beneath him, and therefore they should have a lesser say on what transpires. He should be leading, he should be in charge. And although Antony is completely different in real life to the villain he portrays on screen, this is clearly a case of perfect casting, as there are elements of his natural physicality that he infuses into this performance that add dimensions to the character. For example, hand gestures. Unlike almost everyone else on screen, who keeps their hands to themselves, Homelander is very handsy. Whether he's holding his hands out as he attempts to plead his case, extending his arms out to embrace as much attention as possible, or pointing his finger aggressively to coerce the people around him. For the viewer, all of these big hand gestures steal our attention away from everyone else, and keeps the focus on him, which is exactly what a narcissist like Homelander wants. All the supporting cast members actually feed into the dominance of this performance by playing it more reserved around Antony, as if they were also being very handsy and active, that it would look like two equals competing. Whereas this way we can easily see the power dynamic in the room by how restrained everyone else is forced to be. Even if he isn't, Homelander must feel like he's in charge. This is his world, and you're just living in it. This is further exemplified in how Homelander physically touches everything and everyone around him, even though they would never dare do the same to him. Whereas he just takes what he wants, as if everyone automatically belongs to him, physically reminding everyone that they're just his toys to play with. If someone won't do as he wishes, he'll even go as far as to physically puppet master them, guiding their limbs to do as he asked to strip them of their agency. This shows just how controlling Homelander is. Like a spoiled child, he refuses to be told no. This leads directly into the next key, intimidation. Homelander knows the power he possesses, which makes all of these little touches to the hand, torso, or face instantly more threatening. He's letting them feel his presence. Without these subtle moments of physical contact, it's just two characters talking. But with them, Starr is showing us how his character gets what he wants. Once we see his gloved hand on someone's neck, whether it's squeezing or just resting there, it's a reminder of who's really in charge here, and how vulnerable everyone around him is. When it comes to positioning himself to intimidate others, the actor will either hover behind his co-star so that they feel the dreaded uncertainty of what might be happening outside their field of vision, or if he really wants to coerce his subject, to show he's serious, he'll look them directly in the eye with no blinking for an extended period of time, stepping closer and closer as he does it. This makes the audience and the victim feel their options narrowing with every step he takes, and puts all the focus and power back on him.
And if I keep blinking, it weakens me. But if I'm talking to you, and I don't blink, and I just keep going, you start to listen to what I'm saying.
Lots of actors use eye contact to gain power in a scene, as the longer they don't blink, the more it underlines the sincerity of their intentions. But it's so effective for this particular character because Homelander's most dangerous weapon is his laser vision. So by choosing to widen his eyes and holding eye contact, it creates an added feeling of danger. This isn't like looking a normal person in the eye, it's more like staring down the barrel of a gun, waiting for it to go off. Next is externalizing the internal, and this is the real sign of a gifted actor, finding a way to let the audience under the skin of the character so that we know what they're feeling and even thinking without actually needing to hear them speak. So if Starr doesn't blink when he wants to show strength, intimidate, and coerce, then it's only natural that when he wants to showcase his character's insecurity, he does the exact opposite. So every time we see Homelander not get his way or be made doubt himself, he's taken by surprise and has to process what's even happening, and Antony gets that across by blinking repeatedly.
You don't do vengeance.
Go away!
Buddy, it's
Leave us alone!
Ryan, this is a good thing.
Think of each blink like a blow to his ego that's psychologically shattering his self-confidence, and it takes him a moment to put the pieces back together again. If he gets betrayed by someone he thought he could trust, or feels genuine fear, like when he hears Soldier Boy is back, he takes it a step further, and physically shuts his eyes completely to retreat into himself to hide like a little boy. So with Starr's Homelander, the eyes really are the window into his soul. On top of that, anything that makes him feel insecure triggers a series of physical twitches, as if the emotions bubbling underneath are fighting their way to the surface. Whether it's through anxiously tapping his fingers, jingling his leg, or subtly clenching his jaw like he's grinding his teeth, he's always active. It's so rare that the character is purely static. This is part of what makes Starr's performance so special. He has an exceptional level of control over the micro-expressions in his face, genuinely second to none. There are so many little moments throughout the show where we can see the character's feelings physically traveling through his face in a way we've never encountered with a superhero before. For instance, when he's watching Madeline breastfeeding and he's essentially jealous, Antony starts by letting the feeling slither into his eyebrows. Then it works its way down to his mouth to show the character's thirst. He then clenches his jaw and strains it before his eyebrow twitches into his cheeks while his mouth mashes together, showing us what he desires. Without a word spoken, we can see he's visibly battling a craving inside, and it's winning. Then in Season 2, when Edgar puts him back in his place and makes him feel small, again, Antony finds a creative way to express this blow to Homelander's ego. His lip starts to tremble with frustration, feeling powerless. Then like a punch to the gut, he twitches with a sharp nose exhale. Almost like he wants to cry, but he's pressuring the sadness into boiling anger. Then it travels into his mouth, as if he has more he wants to say, but realizes he's been bested. He's got nothing to retort, so he slams his lips together like he's clenching them into a fist, suffocating the instinct to speak. And finally his eyes raise, staring menacingly at his oppressor. Most actors playing this scene would simply stay stoic, just focus on the anger in their eyes, and perhaps even look down with a beaten expression. But Antony presents much more information about how his character processes insecurity, turning emotional embarrassment into barely contained rage. What's great about these insightful moments is that we're essentially watching Homelander having an internal conversation with himself, wrestling with the insecure feeling of not being good enough. And this unspoken exchange is written all over his face. For example, when he takes over Vought, a board member foolishly asks him a business question he doesn't understand. But unable to admit weakness and just ask what she's talking about, he emotionally crumbles inside, before blaming her for even asking.
What's your name?
So we start off with this funny, blindsided look, not knowing what to say. Then the excessive blinks kick in, the internal panic of searching for an answer to a question he doesn't even fully grasp. His mouth wrestles it, jumping back and forth between smiling and frowning in a desperate bid to conceal his shame, almost starting a few sentences but holding it back. Then to protect himself, he resorts back to the old faithful of blaming her. All of this facial activity is a much more captivating way to express that the character worries he's a fish out of water and doesn't know what to do with these negative feelings except throw them back at someone else. And the final key is public versus private. One of the defining themes of The Boys is that what we see in the media is almost never the full story, that the public figures we come to know and love are not always who they appear to be. Superheroes are often defined by the iconic masks they use to conceal their identity, and in a way, Homelander has constructed a mask of his own. This wide fake smile of his, something he can hide behind so that the public don't have to know the truth. He lives on other people's perception of him, needing the world to see him as not just powerful, but happy and loved. But the moment the cameras are off, Antony shows us another side to his character. The mask slips, and the smile instantly dips down into a frown, showcasing the contempt he actually feels for everyone but himself. This leads to many of the funniest moments throughout the show, as no matter how angry Homelander actually is, he's forced to maintain his smiling mask. Like when Stormfront joins the team without his permission and streams his reaction live on social media. This breaks the typical controlled environment between his public image and his private temperament. So he unexpectedly has to hide his contempt beneath this affable veneer.
Stormfront. Who delivered the good news?
This scene could be straight out of The Office, where he's visibly playing to camera, trying to hide his frustrated feelings so intensely that he ends up overcompensating with these excessive vocal inflections.
Who delivered the good news?
Unlike most villains, who play evil as seriously evil, Antony uses his comedic timing to create a different kind of baddie. The man-child whose insecurity could kill us all. He stated, "We're looking at a guy who's physically the strongest man in the world, who I've always looked at as the weakest character in the show, because emotionally, psychologically, he's just completely deficient. He's like a 12-year-old, and in some ways less than." One of my favourite aspects of this performance is that vacant look he has when the cameras are on him, the permanent Grinch-like grin, and yet despite his efforts, there's nothing behind those eyes, just a completely hollow shell of a person, not just hungry for more, but terrified of less. The character is so used to using his smile to conceal his true feelings out in public that Antony blends this instinct into his private moments too. This makes Homelander a far more effective villain as he's so hard to read, constantly bouncing from one emotion to the next. Is he smiling or angry? Is he joking or serious? No one really knows. But no matter the scene, Starr's performance stands out because he's cycling through so many different looks, emotions, and sides to his personality in a way no other character can compete with. There's the super side to him that just wants power, control, and dominance, and the human side that just needs to be loved, held, and cared for. And we get to witness the conflict between these two competing halves anytime he doesn't get his way. Starr shows us a superhero who doesn't embrace challenges. He fears them, as they run the risk of exposing to the world what he already believes about himself, that he's not good enough, that he's a fake, a fraud, a mistake. Like any real narcissist, he's incredibly sensitive, but simultaneously lacking all forms of empathy. So everything he does, no matter how immoral or despicable, is all in service of maintaining his public image. And Antony Starr certainly didn't write the character, but over the first 4 seasons of The Boys, he's embodied him in such a unique way that he's added layers of understanding and even likability to a man who really doesn't deserve any. As by shining a light on the weakness behind his strength, the frown behind his smile, and the fear behind his ambition, Antony has turned in a star-making performance that reveals that even the most terrifying supervillains are the most tragically human. Well, if you've made it this far, firstly, thank you for watching, but if you could now give the video a like, possibly even leave a comment and click on that subscribe button, it will encourage that mysterious algorithm to do its thing.